Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm excited to be starting a new series here on my YouTube channel where I recap all of my favorites for the past month. I'll be focusing, of course, on books and beauty, which are the two main focuses of my channel, but I'll also throw in other categories of things I'm loving as well, such as skincare, video games I'm playing and loving, shows, movies, etc. So if you're interested in seeing what I loved most in the month of February, stick around. So for the month of February, I would be remiss if I didn't mention A Court of Silver Flames. I just recently finished this one up towards the end of the month, and I really enjoyed being back in the world of A Court of Thorns and Roses. However, and I talk about this more on my review that's on my blog, Girl in the Pages, it didn't quite have the same exact magic as some of the earlier books in the series, so I gave it a solid 4 stars. I think that if you're interested in being back in the world of Prythian and visiting the different courts and seeing how the Inner Circle is doing after the war in the previous series, it's a great read. However, it didn't have everything I was expecting. I was hoping we'd get to explore more of the different courts, especially the ones that we've barely seen, such as the Winter and Autumn Court, or ones we haven't seen at all, such as the Day Court. So definitely the book leaves the door open for exploration and potential future installments, and it was a solid story. I loved getting to know more about Nesta and Cassian and seeing their journey, as well as still being able to see other characters from the previous series be central to the plot. However, it wasn't quite up to the expectations that I had after reading my favorites, such as A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. Next up, one of my favorite books, if not the favorite of the month, was Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This is actually a prequel to The Hate U Give and follows Maverick Carter, who's Star's father, who is the protagonist of The Hate U Give. This was really interesting. It was so fascinating seeing Maverick's background, about how he became the person that he did and the life that he has for his family by the time we meet Star in The Hate U Give. I loved learning more about their community. I thought it was really fun reading something that was set back in the 90s, which is crazy to think that that is considered pretty much historical fiction at this point, but really it just solidified that Angie Thomas is an amazing writer, which I already knew, but it was phenomenal to get her, to see her be able to write from yet another character's point of view in the Hate U Give universe, and I sincerely hope she continues writing within that world that she's created. Moving on to what I've been watching in February and what was my favorite. This is actually an older Netflix original series that my husband and I just started called Designated Survivor. This show, my dad has been telling me for years now that I should watch, and I had put it in my Netflix queue, but as we're probably all aware, sometimes things can definitely get lost in there, especially amongst all of the different shows and movies that are constantly being rolled out. And toward the end of the month, I was looking for something new to start. I was a little fatigued by all of the teen-centered originals I've been watching lately, such as Tiny Pretty Things or The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina or Winx, and I wanted something just a little bit older. And I had also been missing sort of that legal procedural / political type of show after binge watching the entirety of the show The Good Wife last year and really enjoying it. So I decided, hey, why not? It's Friday night. We don't have anything else to watch. Let's check out this series, and I am obsessed. It is so fascinating. If you're unaware of the premise, it's basically set amongst the idea that there was an attack on the government, which unfortunately wiped out the president and the entire Congress, almost many of the cabinet members, and the only person left in the line of succession is Kiefer Sutherland, is a much less well-known position. I think it was, and he was in charge of housing and urban development or something like that, a position that he was really passionate about and put a lot of work into, but wasn't really recognized by most people within the government and outside of it. So suddenly he finds himself as the president, and it's really interesting to just kind of see how things would go down if we did actually have to go that far back in the line of succession for the US presidency, and B, just seeing how he navigates the situation, especially as someone who never had aspirations for being president, which oftentimes I feel like those are the people who make the best leaders, right? There's that saying that, you know, people who don't seek out power are the ones who should have it or the best suited to having it. So we are about halfway through season 1. At the time that this video goes up, we'll probably be much further along long. It says that there's 3 seasons so far on Netflix. I'm not sure if they are planning on filming more, but really, really enjoying it so far. And I think it's definitely an underrated Netflix series. I haven't seen many people talk about it. Netflix never actually advertised it to me. So I'm really glad that my dad recommended it for us. And then moving on to skincare, I have one thing to share with you guys today. During the winter months, my already dry skin can get really, really irritated. I'm really prone to dry patches and flaking, and my normal moisturizer just hasn't been cutting it. I usually use the Clinique, just the regular yellow moisturizer. I have kind of my entire life. That's what everyone in my family has used. And sometimes I'd use Moisture Surge Intense, which was the pink one in a pot. During the colder months. They unfortunately reformulated Moisture Surge Intense, and I had read some not great reviews, so I was on the hunt for a new moisturizer this winter, and I definitely wanted to get something that was a little bit more clean. So I wanted to share the new moisturizer that I've been using, just because I personally have found it has made a huge difference in my skin. The moisturizer I ultimately went with, after doing a lot of research online and reading a lot of reviews on Sephora, is by the brand Farmacy. I have used their cleansing balm for a couple of years now to double cleanse my skin when I'm taking my makeup off, and I've really liked it. They are a clean skincare brand, and I am now using their Honey Halo moisturizer. This has been such a game changer for me. Within, I want to say, 2 or 3 days of using it, my winter dry patches were completely gone. My makeup was going on so much smoother, and it's really nice because it really hydrates your skin, but it doesn't feel super greasy. It actually doesn't feel as thick to the touch as you'd think it would when you're putting it on. So I have really, really loved this. The only thing I'm not a huge fan of is the actual shape of the container, because it has kind of this like octagonal, hexagonal shape. It can be kind of hard to get the product out of the sides. I prefer just more of a circular container. However, really enjoying it. I am almost all the way through it after about a month and a half. I do have the Tatcha Dewy Skin Cream that I also bought, and I'll be testing it next. And then based on how I like that compared to the Honey Halo moisturizer, I'll probably just use whichever one I like the most, probably year round from now on, just because again, my skin is so dry that I think even in the summer when it's more humid and not as prone to causing dry skin, it will still be nice to have this layer of hydration, at least for a night cream. Lastly, I wanted to feature 3 makeup products that I've really been using and enjoying in the month of February. I apologize in advance for the fact that they are all ColourPop. I definitely use things other than this brand. I know I've talked about them a lot lately. I've just picked up a lot of their items over the holidays because they had some really good sales and they're really affordable in general. And they are a newer to me brand. I hadn't really used them a whole lot prior to 2020, so I've been testing out a lot of their products, but I promise in future videos I will have more of a variety of brands. So first off, I wanted to talk about foundation. Similarly to the moisturizer issues that I mentioned earlier, I have very dry skin, and especially in the winter, the very mattifying foundation that I usually use, which is the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation, was doing okay, but again, didn't feel as hydrating or moisturizing as I typically would like my skin to be. So I had heard a lot of good things about the ColourPop Pretty Fresh foundation. It's formulated with hyaluronic acid, which is something that really helps lock in moisture. And I apologize, you can see my bottle is very well loved and it's a little bit dirty, but I wanted to give it a shot, especially because it was on sale at Ulta when I ordered it, and it's pretty affordable normally. I want to say it's only $16 compared to my MAC foundations, which can run $30+ or Estee Lauder, which is almost $50 a bottle. So I hadn't used a drugstore price foundation in a very long time, so I didn't really know what to expect, but from the first time I put it on my face, I loved it. It gave me such a nice dewy finish, and even under powder like I'm wearing today, it still has a little bit of luminosity to it. I don't actually have to use that much to get good coverage. It's advertised as like a light to medium coverage foundation, but I think it's very easy to build up. My favorite way to apply it is with a sponge. I use the Real Techniques makeup sponge, but similar to a beauty blender. However, I have applied it with a brush in my hands, and it goes on really, really nicely with either. I had also tried the Pretty Fresh Tinted Moisturizer by ColourPop, and it's okay, but the foundation is my favorite by far. Super affordable, and it comes in a huge range of colors. My bottle is in 15 warm or 15W. I think it could probably go up to 25W, especially as we get into summer and it gets warmer and we just get a little bit tanner. If I'm able to leave my house this summer, we shall see due to what happens with COVID. However, I think it's a really, really good foundation for people with dry to normal skin, and it has a really, really great shade range, whether you have cool, warm, or neutral undertones. Next up is a product that I talked about in my January and February beauty haul video. This is a ColourPop blush from their Off Melrose collection. It's called Fashion District, and it's kind of a warm terracotta nude shade. I was very excited about it when I purchased it because I really, really like nude tone blushes rather than pink, although I am very pink today. And after using it, I just found that it completely blew away my expectations. It's a $10 blush, and again, I have used a lot of high-end makeup products in my 20s and wasn't expecting it to perform that well. I had heard a lot of people say that ColourPop's pressed powder blushes weren't their favorite formula, but I love it. I have no issues with longevity, and I just think it is the prettiest, most unique color that I've tried in a long time. As you can see, it does kind of have a warm terracotta color to it. It's not too orange and it's not too brown. It's right in between. So if you are looking for more of a nude warm blush, I would highly recommend this. And with this collection, you can actually find it at Ulta if you don't want to order directly from the ColourPop website. And last, but certainly not least, is the eyeshadow palette that I have been loving in the month of February. I love eyeshadow. It has been my biggest makeup weakness lately. I just love playing with different shadows, different finishes, trying out different brands, and this is a palette that I find myself returning to again and again. It was actually my very first ColourPop palette I ever purchased. Last year, kind of in the middle of the pandemic, I bought it on a whim. I threw it in an Ulta order, and I didn't use it for a couple of months because I went through a period where I wasn't really wearing makeup, and when I pulled it out and started using it, it was just the most beautiful, easy, everyday neutral palette, but it was still fun. It wasn't boring or it wasn't underwhelming in terms of performance. So it's called Nude Mood, and it is a 9-pan cardboard palette. And I really like these cardboard palettes because they're easy to open, and the fact that they're cardboard and they don't have a mirror makes them recyclable. So it's just better from a waste and environmental standpoint. So as you can see, mine is kind of dirty because I've just used it and loved it so much, but it has a good range of both light, medium, and deeper toned shades. And it actually has, I think, at least 1 or 2 Super Shock shadows. These are ColourPop's sort of famous shadow formula that they first launched their brand with several years ago. It's a cream to powder sort of formulation, so it has a very bouncy texture, and you get a lot of color payoff, especially with shimmers or glitters. So this color, Wink Wink, right here in the top middle is a Super Shock, and then Put On Airs below it I think might be, but it might just be a shimmer as well. But these colors are all really, really beautiful. It's definitely a very warm toned palette, so keep that in mind, but it's so easy to wear. And the nice thing too is I feel like I can get a lot of different looks out of it. Oftentimes with 9 pans or 6 pans, every time you do a look, it can kind of end up looking the same because there's not a whole ton of shadows to choose from. But I've definitely gotten at least, I would say, 3 or 4 very distinct looks out of this palette, and I can just go very, very simple by putting something like Bluffin' all over the lid and then just popping something like Bare to Wear in the crease and being done. Or I can do something very glittery and beautiful, such as Wink Wink or Put On Airs all over the lid. That wraps up my February favorites. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing what I've been enjoying using, watching, and reading this past month. I look forward to chatting with you guys in my next video, and if you enjoyed this, I would be so grateful if you could give me a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!